to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If any residents would like to speak tonight, you can sign the book at the podium. Let the record reflect no residents would want to speak tonight. Work session discussion topics, Manager Silka.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is a website update by Jonathan Beskid. We've updated our website that was put in about 3 years ago. So this is the first major update on the contract. We just want to kind of share the update with you.
Yeah.
Jonathan?
All right, so good evening. So tonight, like Jeff said, I'm going to share with you our web design update and the content update that we've done. So just a brief overview of what happened. In 2020, we were eligible for a visual upgrade to our website. It was something that was included in our contract with Civic Plus. And typically the industry standard is about 3 years or so is when you start taking a look at your website and looking to update it and make it more modern. So we reached out to them to get the process started, and they said they'd be happy to. They also told us that the content changes weren't going to be included, and that was something we'd have to do internally. And we wanted the public to be able to get the full effect, so we wanted to update our content as well, so that was something that we undertook. So this was launched not too long ago, about a month, on April 14th, 2021. So the goals that we had going into it were to reinforce our branding and improve our aesthetics. We have an extensive branding guide with primary, secondary colors, graphics, the works. We wanted to make sure that all of that stuff is on our website, and we wanted to make sure that it was visually appealing and it was modern and looks like a current website. So our second goal was to make sure it was mobile friendly. We have a lot of people accessing our site from their phones and their tablets, so we want to make sure that they have full utility of the site as well. The third goal is to improve navigation, to kind of declutter it and make it easier for residents to find what they need, and then increase the visibility of our social media accounts and drive traffic to them, and then as well as improve our site as a central hub of information, because that helps reduce the phone calls that come into the office. So what happened was we started off doing some research, and we researched dozens of municipal governments across the country and in Pennsylvania as well. We found trends that we liked, design things that we liked, and we gave Civic Plus our list of designs along with some of our own original input, as well as some updated photos that we took in our parks and out and about throughout the township. And then we also gave them the branding materials that I'd mentioned earlier. So they got to work on that, and we got to work on the navigation and the content portions of our website. So the first thing we looked at was the site analytics data. That gave us a good feel for what people were going to. It also let us know, it gave us a good way to measure what kind of buttons we wanted to put on our homepage and kind of where we could increase our navigation efficiency. And so we set about changing that, and then we started working on content. So for content, I met with department directors and their staff, and we went through their content page by page. This was a thorough process and really a collaborative effort on everybody's part to make sure that we have the best information on our website. So we went through that multiple times, and then the design meetings that we had were typically with Assistant Manager Turley and myself and the design team, and they give us a design, we'd provide them feedback, there'd be a turnaround, and again, that took some time to get it to where we wanted it to be, because we wanted to make sure that we were very happy with the design of our site. So that pretty much was getting everything prepared for launch. You know, you dot your I's, you cross your T's, and then it was time to launch. The whole launch process took about 2 hours. Civic Plus did the design portion of it, making sure it was on all of our pages, and I handled the content and the navigation at the same time. So as always with a project this big, there is some cleanup items that you have to do after the fact, and the department directors were kind enough to do a post-launch review and made sure that everything we talked about made it on the site. So now I'm going to take you to actually what you want to see, which is our website here. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at it yet, what you'll notice is that we have our a horizontal logo here on the top, and then we have our mega menu. And here it is greatly reduced. I wish I could show you what the old site looked like versus what the new site was, but the picture's wouldn't have been very good. But anyways, so we were able to significantly declutter this. It is much more streamlined and should be easier for our residents to find what they need. In the banner section here, these are some of the pictures that we took. This is a drone photo that the police department was actually kind enough to get for us. And so we were able to put a good number of those on our website as well. We do have increased functionality with this banner. We can use it for emergency announcements because we can now put captions over top of these pictures. So this gives us somewhere to put it where if something urgent comes up, we have a primary place where everybody can see it and be notified. So that was a really great thing to be included with our site design. Then below that, you see we have our connected tagline there. That's just part of our branding guide. You see that our primary colors are coming through nice and strong with the blue and gold. And then we have our buttons here. So I'm actually zoomed in a little bit far, so too far. So what you see here is that we have two sets of buttons. So the gradient buttons that you see here are more action items, things that we want residents to kind of interact with. And so you have agendas and minutes, permits and forms, ordinances. That was a big ask for residents. People wanted to see where they could find those. And then illicit discharge, which has to do with our MS4 program. We actually get credit for that. So this was a great opportunity to put that on our page. And then you see that we have these photo buttons, and these are more of our content-heavy areas. You see the department pages, garbage collection, Board of Commissioners page. That's all right here. So pretty much that allows anybody to go onto our site, and they can get in the general area of where they want without having to go through our mega menu at the top. So particularly for our mobile users, that's a pretty big advantage. Below that, you see that we have our social media buttons, and our social media buttons before were very small, and they were in the corner and kind of went unnoticed. Now they're full color, they have prominent placement, so this should help drive traffic and subscribers as well. Then you see that the news flash and announcements portion of our website, it received a visual upgrade. We have the wave from our branding guide that made it into there, and it just looks like a great upgrade that they made. And then at the bottom, in the last section, what you see is our live stream and then our calendar. So we pulled our calendar from being a button to actually being on our website, just so that people can see what's coming up as far as events and meetings in the township. They say, oh, hey, look, there's a meeting tonight, and then click on the live stream. So we have correlated content there. So that's pretty much everything on the home page. I'm going to walk you through just briefly on two of the interior pages. So the first one's going to be the police page. And as you see, we have different pictures for our interior pages, and those change upon refresh or if they click a different page. You see that we have our wave going through behind the content area, and then we have our logo that's actually in the content area of our website that acts as a watermark. We didn't want plain sight, we wanted something that was unique to us. And so this was one of the big results from our design meetings with Civic Plus. Now, what's specific to the police page is that we have a link to their social media as well because they have their own Facebook page. So we want to make sure that we're trying to help drive traffic to that. A lot of new content here. Part of our content meetings, we're talking with dispatchers, finding out what kind of phone calls were coming in. So when people want to know, how do I get a copy of an incident report? I want information about our noise and fireworks ordinance and our outdoor burning. That's now all on our website, all with their own dedicated pages. Another big thing was having interactive forums for them. So a lot of theirs has to do with like citizen engagement. So they have like emergency response training, event appearance, K9 demonstration, and the police department tours that they do. And so when a resident goes in and fills out one of these online, it goes directly to the officer who's in charge of its email. And so it's a great way for it to be paperless and easily managed. So the last thing that I'm going to mention, I forgot to mention this. This is for all of our interior pages, is the navigation for the subpages has changed. So now we have a collapsible drop-down menu. Before they were hover-overs, and everybody knows difficulties with hover-overs. You move your mouse the wrong way, and you're not where you want to be. So this really was a navigation efficiency that we were able to implement on our site. So the other page that I'm going to take you to here is our Parks and Recreation page, specifically the Parks and Pavilion rentals. So parks are obviously a very visual part of our township, and we wanted to make sure that on our website, we gave it a visual representation. So I worked with Director Miller on doing these buttons for the parks. And so you see that we have, a nice picture of our Lake Braddock's Trail here. And then when you hover your mouse over, it gives you a description of what the park is, gives you some key amenities. You can click that button, it'll take you to our facilities module, it'll tell you even more information about the park. So we did that for our regional parks, and then our multi-use park, Lions Park. And you can also see that we have pavilions listed under some of these. One of some of the feedback that we got from residents was that when they went to reserve something online, sometimes they were having difficulty getting there. So we put links to where they could reserve it right underneath the pavilion. So all if they do is click that link, that takes them to the sub-facility, they click the reserve button, enter their information, and they're good to go. So we really hope that helps really improve the efficiency there as well. So the neighborhood parks, there wasn't really enough space to do a photo button for each and every park, even though that would be something that would be nice. So instead, what we did was we linked to those to their respective facilities modules, where you can click on them and you can find more information about them. But that's pretty much the interior page of our website. So as you can see, there's a lot of work, a lot of collaboration, a lot of effort that went into this. As much as I'd love to show you everything, I obviously don't have time to do that. But on your own, please feel free to browse it, and I'll be happy to take any questions that you have regarding the website.
John, this looks fabulous. I was on the website, the old website, one day. I didn't know the update was taking place, and I went to it. I was like, wow, this is so much nicer. Now, when you say with the ordinances, I know I talked to Jeff. That's the one thing that residents are looking for the most, and even myself. Are all of our ordinances now on there? Or are we still in the process of adding them to that at this point?
So we have a lot of the big ones, a lot of the hot topic ones. We don't have every single ordinance because there's a pretty big database of those. But yeah, we will definitely be looking at extending those.
If I just kind of may, what we need to do is, we don't have a codified ordinance. We don't have a codified section of the code book. That was in the budget for this year, kind of got taken out. It was worked on a few years ago, kind of got thrown in a drawer. So what we want to do is, if you go, we do want to codify our ordinance. I'm hoping for the budget in 2022, we can put that in to have that project done, have everything, and have the North Huntington Township Code, if that's the desire of the board. But I mean, basically, a community of our size should have a codified ordinance. That way, we're not looking for ordinance 17 because, our people out there don't know what ordinance 17 is, or the zoning. But if they go to the code, they go to the zoning section, the administrative section, the refuse section. Everything is in a codified book. So that's what we're going to be working on.
Thanks, Jonathan. Looks good.
All right.
Do
Thank
we
you.
have a link to the Ackerman Nature Preserve on there through the parks?
Okay. Oh, yeah, we can look at doing that.
If you don't have that, I can work with you, or Jeff could work with you on that.
Yeah, that's currently, that's not currently on our perks page, but that's definitely something we can work on.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, second part is an American Rescue Act update. As you know, I told you last month, on May 11th, they were supposed to get guidance out to us. Well, that guidance came in the evening of May 10th. It's 155 pages. What they did for most of it was put flowery language in the beginning in the preambles and kind of made it, okay, this. The actual guidance starts at page 130. And so there's about 20 pages. And this is only interim final guidance. Final guidance is going to be coming within 60 days of interim final guidance. So, however, there's a couple things that did solidify. One is, for our basis, air filtration is definitely in there expressly. And being able to do building modifications to disperse staff, which we have in our budget right now, that'll be a covered expense to move the police department around, move administrative staff around. The lost revenue is interesting, and actually, Mike and I actually sent in a really good webinar today by Meyer Dussel, and right now, as I gave you the memo, our all funds loss of revenue between 2019, which is going to be the mark year, and 2020, good and bad, is only $266,000 through all of our funds. So through $17 million worth of budgets, we brought in $286,000. Now, the caveat is, $100,000 of that is the transfer that I counted that we took from general to capital. So really, we're only down $166,000. So, but in the act, we're able to use a 4.1% inflation rate for every budget. So what we're gonna, and this came, I didn't have time to do it for this meeting, but I'll do it for next month, is we're able to take 2019, times 4.1%, and that's what our revenue should be for 2020. Now, we have a difference of $286,000. We'll be able to subtract that from what we should have got, and then that'll be what we can claim and put back into our funds. So we're going to be able to put back some money, and now we're able to do that over the 2 years, or over the next 3 years that the act is available. So we will be able to return funds if we show revenue loss. So that is good. Like I said, the guidance came out in the evening of May 10th. It's 155 pages. I did a cursory run through. As I said, in June we'll probably have a little bit more. But then there's also stormwater has been now approved. So stormwater projects are approved to be put in. So what we're going to do is we're going to see what we have teed up, because basically all this money is going to have to be expended by December 2024. So, okay, but now they didn't give us our final allocations. Since we're a non-entitlement community under 50,000, our money comes from the state. So the feds give it to the state. They have to verify that we're not getting more than 75% of our budget in 2019, which at the current, what was floated out there is roughly $3 million. Yeah, we're safe for that. And then the state has 30 days. The money will come to the state within 30 days, and the state has 30 days to give it to us. So we'll probably be getting it sometime around July. There's opportunities, because this, the Rescue Act is written for everybody, from, counties to cities of 2.4 million to us. So of getting like direct aid to businesses, doing loan programs, doing, workforce development. As a township, we are not set up for that. We don't have the staff infrastructure. We don't have the expertise. We don't have the tracking to start picking and choosing what businesses can get aid. So what we're going to look at is how we can recommend to you to spend this money in big, splashes, simply because this is as we talked, this is a New Deal kind of thing. This is going to be a one-time thing. It could be pandered off in $25,000 increments, or it can be, spent for long-term investments. And it may be, have to bring in a partner, whether it be one of the authorities for water and sewer upgrades. But like I said, that's all speculation right now until we see actually how much we get and what are the true guidance. So I want to keep you informed. At the next workshop in June, I'll have a much more broader presentation, and I'm going to need input. I mean, that's when give the direction of the input to spend this, knowing that it's not a check to say spend what you want, but we can't just reload coffers. We can't replenish deficits in spending. We can't offset any new pension deficits. We can't pay off old debt, which we don't have. So there's some specialist things we can't do. We can't pay wages going forward. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. But like I said, if you look, we're only $166,000 negative, from 19 to 20. So that's good. I mean, our revenues weren't grossly impacted, but we can bring some of that forth. And that's what I have to say about this.
I have a question on that, Jeff.
Sure.
Not necessarily on that, but what is the status of the HVAC system here now?
We have it, well, design was ready to go. I was hoping to do it in May. But when this kind of came, I didn't want to get into a situation where we couldn't fund it because it was a pre-existing debt. So I'm ready to go, to bring it to the board to put it out for a bid probably in June. It's working now. We got it turned on and we got it charged. So, we're probably 2 months behind, but I didn't want, if we can get free money for it and not have to take debt, I think, it's well worth the wait for 2 months. Okay, the next item is a request from North Huntington Township Municipal Authority to extend their term to 2050, to 2051. As you know, as they're building the new sewer plant, they're taking out long-term debt, and the 30-year note exceeds their current authorized lifespan. So they're not going to be able to take any bond past their current lifespan. So what they're asking is to extend the term to December 2051 to align with their anticipated borrowing. And what, in the memo from Mike Brandhoover, they're hoping that this borrowing and this extending the term, is going to allow them not to have an adverse impact on rates for this. And it's, that they would need the resolution passed by the board to authorize that. And also the resolution also amends their current address to the current new address as their official address.
That extension only is for 9 years. 2042 is the mandatory.
Right.
That's the 20, and they're requesting, NHTMA they're requesting up to an extension of 9 years, which will rein it in to the end of the year for 2051.
Yeah, and
So just
what
a-
you can do, when you extend it now, you can extend it for 50 years.
Right.
So that kind of gets us where we are.
And by us doing that, that way we can ensure our constituents will not see a raise. And
That is what is
For that.
communicated. This
Yeah.
doesn't provide any assurances. I mean,
No,
this
no.
doesn't, there's no guarantee.
Right.
On their amortization and their pro formas, they're saying this would work.
But this, if we say yes to this, this will prevent a height rake, or a rake height. Am I saying that right? Based on this very thing here.
Based on, I mean,
The extension.
I want to be very careful on the public record.
I know, I do too. I do
Based
too, that's why I'm-
on information provided by NHTMA,
Yeah.
their current, financing structure and debt structure is set up not to incur a rate increase.
Right, right. Trying to say the same thing, but
Yeah.
I'm having trouble with it, but thank you. Thanks.
Anything else? Nope. Okay, the next one is a intergovernmental cooperation agreement with the Borough of Irwin for inspection services on the new auto parts store that's coming into the old Penn Irwin section. This, the Penn Irwin motel site is, the development will cross the border between Irwin and North Huntington. The majority of the structure is going to be in Irwin. They're going to do that. We were pretty adamant that, through our inspections department, that we want to do the retention wall. Our inspectors are certified, and the retention wall in this project is probably the key part of the project. So we just want to make sure, we permit that. So this will allow us to work on the project. It gives the developer a clear sense of who he submits what to and where the fees go to.
Jeff, if you could address to the public, please. I know I've had a lot of people say, man, please, not another auto parts store. Or why can't we get Chick-fil-A? Or why can't we do this? Why can't we do
Well-
that? Would you please address to our constituents
Sure.
why?
Well, it's private property. People make their decisions. Chick-fil-A has a very stringent corporate policy. They map out where they want their stores. All we can do is accommodate when they come to us. But from Chick-fil-A, and I have a personal history with Cracker Barrel. I lost Cracker Barrel off $10,000 because they're pro forma, and I said, well, I can get that from the county as a grant. Give me a week. I said, no, it doesn't match. We don't work this. So corporations, especially the restaurants, they have a strict expansion plan, and they don't deviate from it. And I have one other issue that was brought up with Commissioner Zona. He's asking that the board, do you want to take this, or you want?
Yeah, I can discuss it real quick. I just wanted to get on the agenda, a request to have the township send a letter to PennDOT requesting a jake brake restriction in the area of Bethel Drive, on State Route 30, from Maltz Lane to Bethel Lane. I'm getting complaints from my constituents in that area that, from sitting there and watching it for a little while, the trucks that are coming eastbound on Route 30, when they make the bend on 30 at Spitz Auto, and they see the traffic lights ahead, or they see traffic ahead, they're hitting their jake brakes there. There's a lot of There's apartment buildings right there, and there's the whole street of Bethel. Some of their backyards pretty much look right over Route 30, and it's disturbing a lot of the citizens. I talked to George Dunbar's office. They're getting the same complaints. They suggested that we send a letter to PennDOT requesting that restriction. They would send a letter also, and they would follow up on it after we sent a letter. That's my request to get on the agenda.
Jeff, while we're talking about that, unless you have something to say to Ron about that.
No, I mean,
Okay,
put on for a vote.
okay. Put
No,
it for a
Put
vote.
it on the agenda.
Yeah, it'll be on the agenda for a vote
Okay.
next week.
Okay, so something that was sent to me, a petition, there was a petitioners are requesting a PennDOT study of said intersection and installation of an ICWS, which is Intersection Conflict Warning System. Specifically, it deals with the road on, what is that, Cherry Lane?
Yes, we're very
Yeah,
familiar
the
with
old-
this. Yeah, I mean, the petitioner, I believe, is mostly out of, this came about a year ago or so.
Okay.
Mostly out of township residents. It's a very misaligned intersection.
Yeah.
There's no sense of doing anything right now in that because that's part of PennDOT's upgrade. So to put in,
Oh, okay.
spend upwards of six figures for anything there, it could all go away. So yeah, this is coming before the board. The board kind of, put it forth. And this actually has been a historical problem. It's just a very bad
It is.
off-center intersection.
Yeah. The horizon lines, I think you're supposed to have about 400 feet visibility. And, you've got a dip, you've got a hill, you've got blind spots. So when you brought up the Route 30, when does PennDOT look to redo this? Is that in stone yet? It's not.
No, it's not. The first phase, what we're going to do is, we're talking about this last week. We need to reach out to them, again, and maybe bring them in to kind of update us, because we're starting to get calls again. The staff, I'm sure you're probably getting calls. It's a two-phase, but we still don't have a start date for phase one.
All right, thank you.
I have a quick question about the Cherry Lane. What would we need to do to just put a no left turn there?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked into that. I mean, we can look and see how that would
I
impact
mean, if the
traffic.
problem's they can't safely make a left-hand turn onto 30 from there, well, just no left turn. And then that way it keeps everybody safe.
What we could do is, we could take a look at it, and we can, approach PennDOT, see if they would approve it. Since it's going onto a state road, they would have to approve that no left turn. But that's actually a good point.
I'd like to see, maybe we look into it a little bit.
We'll do that.
Having spoken to some of the constituents, Jason, good point on that. Some of the folks were saying what they're doing now is, if they're on Route 30 westbound, they got spits on their left going down towards the Old Helms Trucking Company. Instead of making that left onto Cherry, crossing traffic, crossing eastbound, a lot of them are going down to the Colonial Manor light and going down, dropping down into Colonial Manor. Fran, you know what I'm talking about, and doing a switcheroo, I think on Shorkey's property, what is now the Strategos, part of the Strategos property, coming back up Colonial Manor, making that right onto 30, and then heading back over to Maltz Lane and making that right shortly after Meineke. And it's a bad intersection. I think a traffic study says there's been a lot of accidents over the years, and I think we've been very fortunate that we haven't had any significant, have we had any fatalities there?
Not
Yes.
not there, but similar roads.
Similar roads with, yeah, right, have had, yeah. So this would be preemptive on our part to do something about it before, honest to God, something may or could happen. And that,
Are you talking no left turn coming out of Cherry Lane?
Yeah, out of Cherry
Okay.
onto 30.
Because I think another thing to look at is what Eric just said. When you're going westbound on 30 and you crest that hill, there's cars stopped there in the left lane making a left turn into
Well,
Cherry
that's
Lane.
an illegal turn anyway. I think there's a double yellow line there.
It's actually not, that's what I thought too, but in talking to the chief, that is not an illegal turn.
That's not a state law.
Yeah.
State law is the signs. That doesn't matter if it's a solid double yellow line, doesn't matter. They have to have signage posted there that says no left turn.
Mike, you want to
Sure.
help me out?
This is actually a complicated issue tied into lots of different things.
Yeah, you can turn left over a double yellow. There's numerous driveways in order to get in and out of your commercial driveway or any driveway on 30, so you can do that. And usually they'll restrict it through signage or physical impediment to do it. Like at the intersections, you'll see that where they have a mountable curbs, they can challenge, because there's more risk of accident there. But we've had this discussion with them. In fact, we've heard district people say you can't make it over a double. Make a left over a double yellow. We're like, well, yeah, you can do it. Yes, you can. You do it all the time. Anyway, you would literally have to paint a little bit of double yellow and leave it opening, and then paint a little and leave it every driveway, so you can make that turn. But the issue, there's a couple different things at Cherry Lane. Like Jeff said, it's an offset intersection, so it's not a high-volume intersection, but it's an offset intersection, and it's not a regular signal operation there. Right? It's a really old, unusual operation. It's not in a design standard, and there was too many other issues, they felt like, and they wanted you to modernize them, put in a whole new, $500,000 signal system for what is essentially a private drive to a business that isn't even operating there anymore. So, well, we can't do it. So we got turned down for that, and we thought that would help, and we had a fatality there. The issue of the other Cherry Lane, the side street, is that those offset intersections are huge problems to coordinate and make work. You could do it, but you get a lot. If you've ever driven through these, it's really, really awkward, and operations are really bad. But all of this starts to become a moot point, because they're going to put a barrier through there, and they're not going to be able to turn left. They're going to take care of this at what looks like the second phase. I don't know the year, maybe 2025. We need to get an update on that. So it's tied into a bunch of different issues. But as far as restricting a left turn out of there, I think you could do it, but what's the justification? If the sight distance is there, why do you? Because that occurs everywhere on 30. It's like, well, if you're going to do it here, what about the next street and the next driveway and all of these? So that's a question that comes into play. Does it meet a standard or not? And if you're going to restrict it, what about all the other problem areas there? So and the answer is really to redesign it. You mentioned the crest curves, the vertical curves, and sight distance issues, and that's what the design, one of the things it's going to do is to flatten it out a little bit, to improve sight distance, put a barrier in, and a lot of things that are really, really needed. So I don't want to be too long-winded with this, but as you can see, there's a whole bunch of issues here. There's accidents, different reasons for accidents, and things. So, but it's something that we have gone over numerous times. And I think the thing you should take out of this, or my suggestion, is there's really not much that we can do right now, with the possible exception of restricting a movement out of there. But with all the design and all the things happening and the issues, there's just not much that we can really do right now. We got to let this play out a little bit.
Thanks, Mike.
I would ask a question, now, to do what Jason said, to have it restricted left turn coming out of Cherry Lane, which Cherry Lane is our road, right? It's a township road.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we need PennDOT's approval for that? Coming from our road onto a state route? I would assume on 30, if you're going westbound, if you want to restrict a left turn into Cherry Lane, that's a PennDOT issue there, but.
Typically, we should have some justification to do it. I mean, we should be looking at site and reasons to do it. If we have an accident, an accident rate that's high, then that might be justification. If we have a sight distance problem, it might be justification. But if we have one accident and there's adequate sight distance, the question becomes, would it be justified?
I think the question is, we have to have PennDOT's approval to restrict entry onto their road.
Yeah, but I'm not
That's
sure.
that's the question. What we would do is see, do we have warrants?
I do understand.
It doesn't meet the warrants to go to the next level, but we can't restrict entry or exit from their road without their permission.
And I think that would be easy to justify, because at the intersection of 30, Wallace, Bethel, and all no left turn there, and they added that, and that has a bigger sight distance than what you're referring to there.
So what we'll do is we'll kind of work it up and bring back a little report, see if it's worth going to the next step.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
I'd like to continue on that, if you don't mind, and move down the road a little bit westward over to the Hartford Heights Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay.
If PennDOT puts a barrier, that's going to really prevent Hartford Heights Volunteer Fire Department from coming out of their fire station and making a left.
Eric, in the design, there is a lane for them to get on to 30, just for the fire department,
Yeah,
to get on to 30 and go eastbound.
We addressed that about 3 years ago with them. We had an emergency management meeting with PennDOT, with all the providers, and that was something that we said they can't go to the jug handle and come back.
Right,
So-
that's
so
what we
they're
don't
gonna be
wanna
able-
see.
No, they're gonna be able to go through and hit 30
Okay.
without going down to the next jug handle.
Okay, and by saying that, that's great. I needed that clarification. Thank you for that. So they will not be prohibited from making an immediate right, which is no problem. It's coming out and making that left and going eastbound on 30. You're saying they will have a lane for that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks.
That's all I have.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Plan and engineering topics, Director Fonzie.
Okay. Just give me 1 second to get set up here. Okay, we have 5 items tonight under site plan and subdivision report. The first item is subdivision 8, 2021. This is the Palmer subdivision. Daniel Palmer Jr. lives at 1120 Hontown Wendell Road. This is near the intersection with Crestwood Drive, the entrance to Country Hills. He owns 2.75 acres there. And what he would like to do is subdivide a new lot, a lot that's just over half an acre in size. That's the darker orange, Lot 2, which would be a flag lot down to Hontown Wendell. He still maintains the minimum frontage for his existing home lot. The new lot would require a full planning module for the sewage planning. Still waiting on that application from the surveyor, Bob Deglaw. Other than that, everything was satisfied on this plan. Planning Commission recommended it for approval last week. Again, just waiting on that sewage planning to organize and send into DEP. Anybody have any questions on this one? Okay. Next subdivision is subdivision 9, 2021, the Slavin Craft Plan. This is a true boundary line revision on Whitehead Lane and Rebecca Drive in between the two streets. The Slavins live on 870 Whitehead Lane, that's the blue lot, and the Crafts live on Rebecca Street at 795. And so the Slavins would like to add 7,500 square feet to their rear yard. So that's the dark blue polygon there that would be added to the lighter blue triangle. Both lots still meet the minimum dimensional requirements for this R2 district. Everything was corrected on the plan from the surveyor. Planning Commission recommended it for approval. It's just a pretty simple boundary line revision. Any questions on this one? Okay, the next subdivision is subdivision 10, 2021, the PERS plan. This is on Park Hill Road. This involves 3 lots and 2 existing homes. So the red lot is owned by Martin PERS and Joanne Sloan. They're looking to add acreage from the other 2 lots. So Joseph and Cecilia PERS live on the blue lot, which is 2021 Park Hill Road. And they're looking to downsize their lot a little bit. And then Cecilia PERS also owns the entire yellow lot, which is approximately over 13 acres. So after this boundary line revision lot consolidation, it's going to end up looking like that. So Martin PERS and Joanne Sloan are going to gain all that acreage and have a lot. That red lot's going to be over 17 acres, and the Joseph and Cecilia PERS lot is going to be reduced, but there's still 1.715 acres. So both lots, again, meet the minimum dimensional requirements. No need for sewage planning. It's just the one lot got a lot larger that was vacant before. So Planning Commission recommended it for approval. Any questions? Okay, the last subdivision I have is Subdivision 12, 2021. This is Willow Estates Phase 2, Revision 1, Trafalgar Court. It's actually an existing cul-de-sac. The road is there. The lots have been created. There are 11 lots on the entire street, including the 2 corner lots. And what Willow Glen Development would like to do is reduce the front setback on the entire street from 30 feet to 22 feet. There was some grading on, especially the lots on the western portion of the drawing near this red polygon. Lots are fairly steep in the back, so to maintain that 30-foot front setback would kind of pinch those homes in, and you'd have a pretty serious high wall in the back. So bringing them in all together would kind of maintain some consistency on that street. This type of reduction has been granted at least 3 other places in this plan, this PRD. The other thing that Mr. Hvac is asking for is he wants to add 4 feet to an existing easement. There's a drainage easement on the right side as well. So this red strip represents that 4 extra feet. What happened was there's folks up on Warwick Drive, which is these lots here in Phase 1, and some of the landscaping from their rear lots sort of infringed on the existing easement. It was a drainage swale. They had some stone put in, some large riprap. It actually kind of encroached into the channel. So what Mr. Hvac would like to do is that extra 4 feet would allow him to sort of regrade that swale and give enough room to take that drainage coming off of Warwick and eventually into the detention system. So those are the 2 things that he's asking for. Planning Commission recommended it for approval. Everything on the subdivision plan checked out as I got comments back from the surveyor. Any questions? Okay, and the last item I have is Site Plan 3 of 2021 and also Subdivision 14 of 2021. This is a service building that's going to be added to the Jim Shorkey Kia dealership site, right near the intersection with Colonial Manor Road, State Route 30. So the yellow polygon is where the proposed building is going to go, just to the east of the existing dealership. It's going to be a 12 service bay building, 10,320 square feet, and there's also going to be an adjoining parking area, inventory lot, sort of in this vegetated area. And because of that, there are 4 lots total on site that needed to be consolidated. So the red, green, and blue lots will be consolidated into the 1 yellow lot, so everything will be contained on the 1 site. There's a better shot of the dealer and the proposed building. The applicant is asking for 1 waiver from the SALDO. It's section 516.4.d, which states no more than 20 parking spaces or 180 feet shall be permitted in a continuous row without being interrupted by a 10-foot wide raised separation to provide areas of landscaping. And the reason for this request is that the lot's just going to be an inventory lot. There's not going to be public visiting that lot. They're going to have their cars for sale on that lot. So that's why they're asking for it. There's a close-up shot of the parking area. It's going to provide 78 spaces for inventory. And actually, they might dedicate 3 of these spaces, probably in this parallel parking area, as employee parking for the service building, because there are going to be no more than 6 employees at the service building at one time. So they'll need 6 employee parking spaces because they're dedicating 2 service bays for each employee. This slide, you can see the landscaping. So if the waiver is granted for the landscape islands in the parking area, they'll still meet the total balance of landscaping on the site as far as the percentages. They're going to be bringing some fill in from across the street. They need to sort of build up this area because if you're familiar with that site, Naponic Lane borders them on the east, and there's kind of a drop off there. So they need to bring some material in, get the desired grade, and then put in another stormwater detention area. And from the memo, you could see the outstanding conditions that we would ask of them. As far as elevations, I don't have building elevations because they're still waiting to get approved from the Kia national brand to make sure it fits in. So once we get those, we'll make sure it fits in with our zoning ordinance with the approved building materials. So hopefully that would be soon. I do have the applicant's engineer, Tyson Miller from KU Resources here. If anybody has more detailed questions for him on this site, or if anybody has questions for me. But the Planning Commission recommended this approval with the approval of the waiver and those outstanding conditions labeled in the memo.
Thanks, Ryan.
Ryan, do I see a proposed pond down there in the bottom right corner?
Yes. Yep, that's going to take the extra flow that's generated by the building in the parking lot.
All right. How deep is that? Is that going to be dug out?
Yeah,
Or is
I
it
believe
gonna
it has to be constructed, Tyson. I'm not sure what the depth is on that.
Okay.
But eventually it'll outlet to the larger pond on,
Now, the little stream or drainage channel,
oh, before that, that's right. It's above the other one. Yeah, so this is,
it's about 6 feet deep.
All right, will that be bermed and then fenced in to protect anybody from getting in there?
I know we have a berm channel, so that,
Yeah, just, I'm sure to keep the kids safe. 6 feet of water, you know what I'm saying? Right, thanks. Thank you.
Ryan, just a question. We're going to require that fill to be compacted, correct?
oh, yes, yes.
Any other board questions? Thanks.
Okay.
Not seeing any old business on the agenda. Any further board comments tonight?
Yeah, I have a few here. Several township issues were brought to my attention by some township residents. I have some, but don't have all the information on these topics, so I wanted to get some clarification on these issues so that I could properly address these concerns. I have some documentation on these topics, but I would appreciate some other supporting details that would help to provide a clear explanation to our residents. Manager Silka, is it possible for the Board of Commissioners to resolve issues that customers are having with Verizon landline telephones within the township, or is that just an issue that customers have to resolve within Verizon themselves?
Yeah, that's a private issue.
Thank you. Secondly, I had some questions regarding a budgetary item that was proposed for the 2021 budget. I was able to find our November 12th, 2020 meeting minutes, which discuss expenditures of the board. It reads, Manager Silka states memberships, association fees, trainings were looked at to determine what we are getting versus what is being spent. The governing bodies are set by state code. Manager Silka states constituent services is a line item requested by Commissioner Blasco to give $500 to each commissioner for educational events within their ward. Manager Silka, did this line item get approved for the 2021 budget?
It did not.
Manager Silka, does the township provide reimbursement for the purchase of alcohol to any township entity?
No,
So it's not possible to purchase alcohol with taxpayer dollars.
not at the present time.
Does the police department use funds from their budget to host educational and community outreach events?
Yes.
Thank you for your answers to those questions. The next topic that citizens reach out to me is in concerns to the noise ordinance. I wanted to read what information I have about this topic. I have memo dated August 9th, 2019 from you, Mr. Silka. It reads, Commissioner Blasco requested that the staff look into updating the current noise ordinance. I, meaning Manager Silka, have provided a draft ordinance based upon research of more up-to-date ordinances in place. For review, I've also provided a copy of Ordinance 800, our current noise ordinance. The memo continues. I have reviewed the draft ordinance with Code Enforcement Officer Josh Andrukovich and have incorporated his feedback. I have recommended that the Board of Commissioners review this and pass an up-to-date noise ordinance. I have submitted this for legal review. I look forward to discussing this issue with you. Manager Silka, you did not write this draft ordinance, correct?
I compiled it. It wasn't an original work.
Correct. So the draft ordinance that was presented to the board was a compilation of noise ordinances from other municipalities.
Correct.
The draft ordinance was reviewed by yourself, our legal counsel, Mr. Andrukovich, as well as the Board of Commissioners. Correct? Do you remember if Chief Rizzo reviewed this as well?
Not the original one. It did go down to Chief Rizzo.
Okay. Do you recall if there were any revisions made to this draft ordinance?
It was basically a complete reworking of the ordinance.
In our current noise ordinance, is there anything regulating or restricting the use of snow throwers?
Not expressly.
Thank you. The last concern was brought to my attention was about the declining general fund balance. From our March budget meeting, I found a summary of what has brought the township to this financial point. Reading, this deficit is not unexpected and has been forecast in past budgets as there was a designed and approved spending down of the surplus. This deficit and spending down of the balances has been references beginning in the budget 2016 and in the audits from 2017. There was no doubt that the township would reach this juncture as it is 2021. We are here by choice and not happenstance, bad policy, or mismanagement. Manager Silka, if I read this correctly, spending down the surplus was a planned budgetary measure.
Yes.
Manager Silka, what would have been the alternatives to not spending down the general fund?
Well, the alternatives were not fund certain programs, raise taxes, or take debt.
Thank you. Manager Silka, what major unexpected costs have imposed a significant financial impact on the township?
The major unexpected costs have been landslides and stormwater issues.
Manager Silka, could these costs and expenditures have been predicted?
No.
Thank you for this information. I will share this with our residents. Thank you.
Any other further board comments?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. You know, April 23rd, there was a little dude in the township that went missing. If you guys remember right. I think it was around 7 o'clock in the evening or 5 o'clock in the evening. I just want to say, man, only in North Huntingdon, I don't know, maybe other communities are like this, but I'm going to tell you something. I could not have been more proud of this community. I got out there and was driving around, and I'm telling you, there were hundreds upon hundreds of people, private citizens, in their vehicles with their flashers on, doing everything they could to find Marcus, 11-year-old Marcus. People out walking, we were beating the streets, beating the weeds, beating the backyards with flashlights. The police were there, EMT was there, the fire department was there. I'm going to tell you something. Outside of Marcus walking away from his home, this was beautiful to watch. To literally see so many people come together, not even being asked, but out of the goodness of their hearts. I'm telling you, man, I was thinking about talking about this today. Even when I was thinking about it a few hours ago, I couldn't help but tear up a little bit, thinking how proud I am of our community and our people that really, honest to God, truly, truly care. It was just a beautiful thing. And to everybody that was out there, man, I just want to say thank you for dedicating. I think a lot of people dedicated between 3 and 4 hours. And I think it was a brother and sister that found Marcus. Am I right? Yeah, and kudos to them, and kudos to everybody that was out there. So thanks to everybody that was involved. That was really just an act of beauty. Thank you.
Any other further board comments tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor by saying an aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Motion approved, 7-0. Meeting adjourned at 7:54.